Welcome, everybody, to the Dr. Leadership Lounge, where we have conversations with business leaders from all walks of life about how and why they are successful. Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Show. Today, we are on the Leadership Lounge, and like we always do, we have great guests on, and I am jacked up today. Very fortunate to have Dave Twamley on. Dave is currently a area vice president at Olympus Corporation. He used to be in leadership at sports marketing at Sirius. So excited to talk about that. Former Division I football player. His own Cooper DeJean, the big pick six in the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago, played defensive back at UPenn from 2009 to 2013. He's also a leadership junkie. You know, I started this endeavor 2.5 years ago, just trying to give back and bring great minds on. That's what Dave is. Want to welcome him to the show. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brent. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to talk to you about leadership and a few other fun things I'm sure that we'll get into today.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you had to be pumped. So Dave lives and is from the New Jersey area, originally Princeton Junction, New Jersey, originally, if I remember right. And
yes.
And real close, an Eagles fan, I suppose. So you said your phone was ringing off the hook with the pick six, being a defensive back. What'd you think of the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the Super Bowl was great. So it's, like I said, I grew up in Princeton Junction, so it's tough. We're kind of, when you're in Central Jersey, you have Giants, you have Eagles, you have Jets. I grew up a Jets fan, but that's been a battle as of late. But going to college in Philadelphia, a bunch of family are big Eagles fans, so always Jets and Eagles. I'd love to see those two teams win. So this year I was definitely pulling for the Eagles, and it was a great time. I loved seeing that game, and obviously it was cool to see the whole season as it went on, and being local, it was nice. And then the parade, had a few people that went to the parade.
You said it was just absolutely nuts, just crazy.
Yes, the videos were pretty outrageous. I think they said there were maybe 1.4 million people.
Oh my goodness, that's awesome.
Unbelievable. What a cool celebration for them. And I think it just speaks to one thing that I love about sports is how it can bring so many people together like that. Just the
all different people, right? It's everyone's got a common theme all of a sudden, right? Everybody's rooting for the team, right?
Yeah, no, it's great. I love to see that, and it was even better when you have so many friends and family that were so happy with the outcome. And like I said, I definitely was happy with it myself, and kudos to the Eagles for a great year. And talk about leadership, definitely a lot of great leadership on that team. I'm seeing some cool videos of pregame the night before when the players were talking to the team. You see Saquon and Jalen Hurts.
Oh yeah,
and a bunch of different guys, and it's really cool to see leaders step up in that situation. So
well, there is no doubt that they were far more ready to play. I was talking to my wife, who was an athlete as well. We've kind of talked about that. And you saw Mahomes and Kelsey out with Mrs. Mahomes and Taylor, 2 nights before, probably skirting curfew, being seen by paparazzi and everything. And I went, uh-oh. And it's kind of like bowl games in college. The team that's there and being seen out and about and everywhere, not focusing on the job at hand, typically has something handed to them, and the Eagles just showed they just absolutely put the friggin' hammer to them. It was over so fast, and we talked a little bit about leadership and your coach. Show the video. I think they were up 24-0 maybe at that point, and they called the post pattern, right? And he says, just call it if we score, it's over, right? Over. If we hit it, it's over. And man, Jalen Hurts put the ball in a 2-foot square all night. I mean, it was unbelievable, his accuracy. He landed it in the breadbasket all night. So,
yeah,
fun stuff.
It's so cool. And I saw a video of him walking into the game. He looks up and he sees there's a picture of him looking at a TV screen walking into the game, and it shows the guest pickers or the hosts on the screen. I don't know if it was Fox or whoever it was. Yeah,
it was Fox. Yep.
And they showed everybody pick Kansas City, and it shows a snapshot of him staring up at the screen, and then a snapshot of him with his head back down, looking straight away, just kind of with this grimacing look on his face. And so you can imagine what was going through his mind. So to see him come out like he did, it was very cool.
Yeah, it was over quick. It was unbelievable, and the line play. Anytime they just commanded both sides, and the defensive line, what they did with only 4 guys down, sometimes 3 guys down, the pressure they put on him was just amazing. So it was good. As I said earlier, I'm in to you in kind of Chiefs land, right? You're either in Iowa. We don't have a pro team, so you're either a Hawkeye or a Cyclone. And then you're either a Vikings fan, a Packers fan, a Bears fan, or a Chiefs fan. And a lot of people have gotten on the bandwagon with the Chiefs, right? There are a lot more red and gold jerseys around that you'd ever seen before. So it was kind of kind of fun to see him get kind of slapped around a little bit.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be saying that as a Midwest kid, but it's all okay. So, well, now you played ball, and what I kind of start with at times is people just kind of walking us to where they are today. And we had a great conversation. You know, you said already you grew up in central New Jersey. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you kind of came up and how you got to where you are today at Olympus.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you said, I grew up in Princeton Junction, New Jersey. I have a sister, and for me, it was always sports were a big part of my life. And I think one of the things that I've thought about a lot is what I've learned from sports and the different traits and skills and things that have stuck with me. But I've also learned that there's a lot of other ways. It's not like just sports that you can learn these things. But for me, the lens that I saw a lot of these life lessons and experiences through was the lens of sports. So for me, I grew up playing a bunch of different sports. I was playing basketball, football, lacrosse, a bunch of different sports. And I got to high school and I really honed in on football and lacrosse. Those are my two sports that I played mainly. I ran a little bit of track, mostly just to stay in shape for football. I don't know any people that have run track out there. That's a grueling. I found this when I started running track. That is a grueling sport. So it was definitely, like I said, to stay in shape for football. But football and lacrosse were the two things I really gravitated towards. And I had this kind of revelation in high school. I was very fortunate to have parents that, one, when we talk about leadership, I mean, the best leadership that I saw at an early age was from my parents. And
great, in the household. That's awesome.
Exactly. And you just talk about servant leadership and just their ability to support my sister and I and put us in positions to be successful. And I was very fortunate to have that and seeing, my mom and dad and the way that they were able to lead our family. And they, like I said, they put us in position to, one, be successful, but two, think about what we wanted later in life and kind of molding those experiences now in terms of what we could do in the future. So I had this revelation where I said, you know what? I love playing football. Football and lacrosse was being recruited, both sports, but I was a football player. I really wanted to play football.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I want to take my athletic ability and trade it for the best academic experience I could possibly get. I was, like I said, you're playing in your local town and you're excelling, but
wise beyond your years is what you were.
Well, listen, again, my parents, I appreciate them talking sense into me, because I had a sneaking suspicion. Hey, listen, I'm probably not going to go to the NFL, and I say that kind of facetiously. Obviously, I didn't really see the NFL in my future, so I thought, how can I trade my athletic ability for the best academic experience possible? And you start being recruited by different schools. My head coach in high school, Todd Smith, was great about this and getting my film out there. And you start to have schools checking out your film, coming to meet you at the school. You go on a couple visits, and I felt like the Ivy League was a place where I could make that trade. It was the right level of football for me, obviously great academics. And that's really where I focused in. So I started to be recruited by a couple different schools, had a few different offers, and really narrowed it down to 3. And what I ultimately felt was I wanted to study business. I come from, my dad's in sales, my sister's in sales, uncles, grandparents. It's just who I wanted to do business. And in my mind, I had an offer from Penn. And when I found out about my ability to get into the Wharton School of Business.
Yeah, but you got Wharton there. I mean, good gracious, it's the right thing, right? I mean, it was pretty, it aligned up pretty easy with you, right? Mentally.
So I thought, I knew I wanted to study business. When you have the opportunity to go to the Wharton School, it's a lot of people argue it's the best place that you can do that. So I thought I definitely wanted Wharton. The football piece lined up. It was in Philadelphia, which was away, but not too far away. And it felt like home, honestly. So I made the decision to go to Penn. I was in the Wharton School, had a great experience there, really tests you both on and off the field, but we had a lot of fun. We won a lot of games there, and I have some of the best memories of my life, some of the best friends of my life I've met there, and continue to always feel a sense of connection to Penn and to the Wharton School. It treated me very well, and I hope to be able to do it justice now in my professional life and be a good steward of the school and the football program.
That's awesome. Now you and I'm going to let you finish up after school a little bit how you got here, but you also won 3 conference championships, if I remember my notes right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So the Ivy League, and it's actually changing this year for the 2025 season. The Ivy League historically has never been able to go to the playoffs. When I say never, I mean in obviously way back in the day we were competing.
Hey,
championships.
my Hawkeyes were awful good in the 50s.
Exactly.
We got three
Exactly.
national
Yeah.
championships. AP,
Very
it was
nice.
boats in the 50s. Yeah.
Yeah. So Chuck Bednarik days, we were competing for national championships, but as of before this year, the Ivy League, you could only play your 10 games and that was it. We couldn't go to the FCS playoffs. We're an FCS school or a 1AA school it
Yep.
was previously referred to. So for us, our quote unquote national championship was the Ivy League championship. So to your point, surrounded by really, really good players there, really great coaches. We had a really awesome group of by the time I was seniors in my grade, we had a lot of fun. And so we were able to win 3 championships in my 4 years. And it's something that you have those memories for the rest of your life. And you have the ring that you can always look at. And
Oh,
it's
yeah.
funny that you win these rings and when you win them, it's like, oh my gosh, don't touch them, don't look at it. And now they're on a shelf and my 2-year-old daughter comes in and is playing with them, dropping them on the floor. And
Oh, yeah.
it changes.
That's awesome. Then you got done with Wharton, and did you go right to Sirius then, or did you have a
So
different stuff?
yeah, so I didn't. So coming out of school, it was one of these things. I knew I wanted to do business, but I thought, where can I best
Yeah.
literally apply myself and my efforts? And through networking, I ended up actually in the commercial real estate space. So I was in the commercial real estate space very briefly, and in networking within the commercial real estate space, I got connected to a connection at SiriusXM. And through conversations with them, they ended up ultimately kind of hinting that there was a potential opportunity there. And I met with them a couple different times and going through the process, and it ended up working out where I made the transition over to SiriusXM. I was doing content marketing and content development for them, mostly on the sports side. So I was dealing with, by the end of it, was really dealing with the major sports leagues, being the marketing contact.
So
And
you were
kind of
meeting all sorts of cool people.
yeah, it was interesting. It was very fun. You got to meet a lot of cool people, had a lot of cool perks, but ultimately, like I said, surrounded by really talented people there, being able to see that lens of media was definitely interesting. And you,
Oh,
you
yeah.
think about radio, that's radio at the highest level. So to be able to see that, and Howard Stern was on my floor, and other different celebrities. You'd walk out to go to the lobby, and there'd be people sitting on the couches that
Having
grew
cups
up
of
on.
coffee and you're just hanging with it. How cool is that?
Yeah, so it was definitely fun. It was a really cool experience. I was my early 20s when I was there, and I loved the experience, being able to learn from all the different people, being able to be exposed to all the different types of content out there, and really I also got exposure to the way business was done there, because I was fortunate where I was able to tag along and see some of these larger deals being discussed and negotiated, and just really professional interaction, and those
Taught you a
things went
lot.
on.
Yeah, you learned a
Yeah,
lot through just, osmosis, right?
yeah, it
Association.
was
Yeah.
great. It was great, and I never got my own radio show or anything like that. Not warranted, but I did enjoy it, and it was just a really fun experience. So I was there for about 3.5 years, and then ultimately I thought about my career and what else I wanted to do with my career. And I'd always thought about, obviously, the sales aspect. My whole family was in it, and I ended up getting connected with someone from Olympus, where I am now, and ended up making the transition into the medical device space. I felt like it was a space that I was always interested in. It was something I heard a lot of great things about,
Yep.
and I made the move here, and I've been here for about 8 years in varying levels
Several
of varying.
different leadership roles. Yeah. Yeah, which is
And I
great.
really enjoyed it, and it's been a great experience, and I've really enjoyed the process here, and it's just been nice to kind of go through life and realize that it's not so much about early on, it's the specific job you're doing, it's what skills are you building. And I've
Yep.
been fortunate
Yep.
to, again,
How are we
have people.
developing? Self-development, right? Improving every day. Now, we're going to talk about leadership, but I have a question. So I'm a huge music guy. Just love
Okay.
music. It's like my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Who's the coolest, or what band's the coolest you ever got to kind of meet or interact with there at Sirius? Because I know Howard has people on all the time, right? Come in and play. Maybe you passed him in the hallway. Do you have any cool, like, rock and roll stories or anything of that
So
nature? Somebody you met that was like, holy cow.
it's interesting. I'm trying to think with all the different music. I mean, I'm a big country music fan.
Awesome.
So for me, it was pretty cool whenever kind of country music artists would come in, so you'd be able to see. I mean, we went to a Kenny Chesney event. That was pretty cool to see that. We
Very
went
cool.
to There was at the Apollo Theater. We did different events at the Apollo Theater. So James Taylor did a concert there.
That's
That was
awesome.
pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Be able
that
to
is
see that,
awesome.
be right there and watch it. But honestly, I mean, I'm trying to think iconic music people that were able to be seen. I mean, it's almost one of those things. There were so many different events and different
Becomes
things.
part of the background, you know. It wasn't like this awe-inspiring moment because there was so much around you. Probably it just
Yeah,
becomes almost
yeah,
second nature. How cool!
yeah. But, it was so much fun though, just to be able to see all the different events, and it was mostly, I guess, selfishly one of the coolest ones. I don't know if you're a big fan, but at the time Ed Sheeran was
Oh
was
yeah, just
on.
coming up then. Yeah,
He did a performance right in our lobby. That was really interesting to see, and very cool. Just how talented he is as a musician. But a lot of the times it was mostly you're able to see a lot of people coming and going. But I think now, as I actually think back on it, probably one of the coolest things I got to see was I was in a studio where they're playing in the studio, and I was right behind the glass
yeah.
to watch John
To, wa-
perform.
to watch who?
And John Legend.
Oh, buddy, that's
So
cool.
John Legend,
Yep.
and you talk about Penn Quakers. He is a fellow Penn Quaker alum. I don't know if many people know that, but he did go to Penn, and that was really cool to be able to see John Legend perform on it. It was just John Legend and piano in a
I was
studio.
gonna say him and the piano. I bet that's very, very
That
cool.
was pretty special, and definitely a memory that I will hold on to. But it was really neat, and like I said, it was a unique experience to be able to see all that and get exposure to all that.
You know,
At
it's funny. So, being a big music guy, so I don't know if you know a band by the name. They're real big in the '70s and '80s called Little Feat. Do you happen to know who
not
Little Feat
not
is?
a little.
Okay, so they were a band, kind of a country rock mix. They had a song that was in a movie in the '80s. Texas Twister was the name of it, but "Fat Man in a Bathtub" was one of the songs. And but anyway, they opened. So I'm a late child. My mom played with the drummer's mother, played bridge for years, and he was the drummer for that band. More of my older brother's age, and my mom got me hooked up, and they opened up for Hank Williams Jr. at the Iowa State Fair back in,
Wow.
God, what year was that? It had to be like 85 or something,
Yeah.
87. And we got to go in the trailer and hanging out with them afterwards, got kind of VIP, and comes
Yeah.
walking, we're sitting there just having a good old time, and here comes Hank Williams Jr. through. Hey boys, good job, good set. And he's walking out, and you're going, holy cow, Hank Williams Jr. I'm more of a rock and roll guy, but
Yeah.
I really appreciate country. I went to Blake Shelton 5 years ago now at the Iowa State Fair, and I'm a huge Blake Shelton fan now, and I love all music. It doesn't matter what it is, but the ability to perform and do some of those things, very, very, very cool. So.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, awesome. Now you mentioned Coach Smith, and your parents were very impactful on you. So you had my parents were my inspiration, right? World War II parents. I've talked about them a lot. You talked about your family so much, and what a great core. We take we don't take it for granted, but man, what a great launching pad in life, because you had a great nucleus of all the common items that you need, not common items, I guess, but how to connect the things that you've been given as gifts just by luck of being born into the right family. You mentioned Coach Smith in high school. Was he a big impact on you, or was your college coach more of an impact from a leadership
Yeah.
standpoint?
Yeah. I mean, I think anybody that's played sports, obviously there's so many different ways to be shown great leadership, and
Yep.
whether it be teammates, coaches, advisors, whatever it might be. But I mean, going back, I think high school is such a unique time because it's when you're really kind of figuring yourself out.
Oh yeah.
Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? And yeah, so Todd Smith was my high school football coach. He's coaches at the Hun School in Princeton now. They've had an unbelievable team. I think they're the number one prep team in the country. They actually have I think the backup quarterback in Iowa is from the Hun School.
That's awesome.
So you took one, you got a good one in him from the Hunt School. But yeah, he was a huge impact on me. And I think the reason why is because, one, like I said, we came in here, he's one of the funniest people I've ever met. So he just has this ability to draw people to him. So
Yep.
that made it a little bit easier. But I think one of the biggest things is he made football really fun. Like, he made everyone want to be there. And obviously you could say, oh, well, people like football, but football can be a grind. The off-season work.
D1 sports are a grind. Doesn't matter what sport it is. Football's very, very rough on your body. My wife played basketball, and she goes, it's a 60-hour a week job. By the time you put your education and everything on it, people think, oh, it must have been so nice. And you're like, man, you're studying on the bus, on the plane. You're getting taped up. You're injured. You're hurt.
Yeah.
It isn't easy.
Yeah, no, it's not at all. And I think like I said, my high school coach, Coach Smith, what he was able to do really was, one, he was able to show me and my teammates how to get the most out of yourself. He was able to really, because by the time you get to high school is when sports become serious and you start to
Oh
really
yeah.
push yourself.
Yeah.
I started to realize, all right, we're going to run 10 of these sprints. My body thinks I'm done at 10, but I still have more in the tank. And he was able to get that out of us in a good way. And it really showed me things I didn't think were possible physically to be able to do. You could do them. You just had to unlock that part of your brain that was saying stop. If you could get through that, obviously in a safe way, able to do that and to push yourself and to maximize your talent, that was the biggest thing. I think he got the talent out. But as a team and as a leader, what I looked up to him was he was able to do three things really well. One, he made the vision of what we wanted to achieve as a team so clear. I just remember it was like, we want to achieve a state championship. It was just so clear we all wanted it.
Yep.
He was able to really clear the why. Like, why do we want to do this? What is in it for us if we can win this? And what's in
the
it for
outcome?
our family,
Yep.
us and our school, exactly. And I think the thing that he did that was really great was the pathway to get there, he made so clear as well. It was, this is what we want to do. This is why it's so important to us and what's in it for all of us. But really it's, if we do these things, we'll put ourselves in the best chance to be successful. And because he was able to do that and draw the correlation between the workouts and the focus and the attention to detail, it made it not feel like practice or not feel like a struggle to get there. We just felt so focused and clear on what we were doing that it was so great to see. And it's something that sticks with me. If you can get people to buy in and then make the pathway to get to where they want to get to very clear, it's going to be really, really awesome to see what you can do. And then most importantly, if you can get the people you're doing it with to buy into that vision and have them buy into each other, you can accomplish some really great things.
Great things. It really resonates with me. My next episode, I can't remember if I have a Leadership Lounge episode hitting tomorrow or a personal episode. I've been doing a bunch of logging these things up because I'm getting ready to go on vacation for a couple of weeks. But my next personal episode, I actually call perspiration through inspiration. And what I mean by that is exactly what you're saying. To give a vision, he inspired you to, hey, we're going after this thing. People work harder when they're inspired. I go down a lot of different roads on that episode, but I talk about how, greatness comes from an explosion of capability, an explosion of results comes from a spark in the beginning, and that's leaders bringing inspiration to it. And it might be the vision, it might be the common goal, it's building the team, individual sport or team sport, but people are willing to work a lot harder. That's the perspiration. If they're inspired, because like you said, you didn't run 10 sprints, you said, I got to run 11. Sweetness from the Chicago Bears, you may not know this story, but he used to say, I go to practice to learn what I have to practice when I get home. He'd finish up an NFL practice, and he'd go in his backyard, and he had a hill in the back. He'd run up and down until he actually vomited. Then he would stop working on conditioning. And, he unfortunately died of cancer way too young, and it rotted him away. But that inspiration is so important in all aspects of life. And then you try to find it in your collegiate days, and then you try to find it in your business days. And now you're a leader in business. And I know, one of the things we talked about was why you were passionate, your why about leadership, and why you say you study it. And I know Adam Grant is a big influence, huge influence on my wife too. We have Adam Grant's Peel Off Daily Calendars. We have 2 of them. So every day I have an inspirational thing sitting on the counter. When I come out of my first meeting, I'm usually on with Japan or somebody at 6 a.m. because it's 10 a.m. at night there, and we're trying to line up. And then I come out and there's a couple of Adam Grant statements. But tell us a little bit about how you drive to learn and this passion about leadership and why you study it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned Adam Grant. And for those of you who don't know, he's a Wharton undergraduate professor, just one of the most unbelievable people I've ever met. And it's not even to say like I have this close relationship with Adam. I don't. Candidly, I took his class. I graduated college in 2013, but every now and then I might shoot an email over to him. He always gets back unbelievable information. He has this alumni group of people that have taken his class. So one of the most impactful people in my life. And it's funny because you talk about the impact you can have as a leader. He probably would barely even remember me if we, I walked down the street and saw him. Maybe he would. I never put anything past him with how.
That's right. How good he is at memory and just knowing how to impact somebody. That's right.
But it's just, think about that. Like he's had such a big influence on me, and he started me on this whole kick of learning about organizational behavior and leadership and learning. And he might not even know that I've said it to him a couple of times over in an email, but it's just such a cool thing to think about. And you joked around, I mentioned he's been an influence on your wife. My daughter is going to be 2 coming up here, and he and his wife actually wrote children's books. So I bought her one of
That's awesome.
She's getting on the Adam Grant train as
on
well.
The curriculum. She's getting on the curriculum early, man.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to get it ready. But yeah, I think it was interesting because when I took his class, he wrote a book called Give and Take.
Yep.
And really the class that I took in the fall of 2012 was pretty much in essence like that book. I think the book came out just after the class, but it was a lot of in the book is what we would cover in the class.
Yeah, he was doing trial balloons. He was working on his stick. That's right. And I don't mean stick in a bad manner at all. He was just working on his content, right?
And it was just so unique. And I think before I took the class, I thought of leadership was really a couple things. One, it's you just think it's this natural thing that somebody has, where you think it's something in the movies where it's Braveheart and you see that one person
over the hill naturally. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. People behind them, and it's the person that's just leading from the front, the smoothest talker, the boldest voice, that people that want to rally around. And in taking his class, I started to really learn that leadership is a skill that you can build.
Oh, yeah.
And not only is it a skill that you can build, but you can have an unbelievable impact on others. And I started to really see from his class the impact of helping other people, the impact of building. He's an organizational psychologist. So how having a leader can impact and positively create ripples in people's lives or negatively create ripples in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So from that, I really started to get this thought, and it's always kind of stuck with me of, as a leader, you can truly change the trajectory of someone else's life.
It's huge.
People talk about, how's your job? You say, how's your job? Next question. A lot of people say is, oh, do you like your boss? Or how's your boss?
Mm-hmm.
You can have such an impact, and not to make it too profound or too deep, but we spend a lot of time at work. That's just people in general. And if you're at work and you feel fulfilled and respected and you have status and all these things, and then you can take that, you're going to be in a better mood. And you're going to have
the energy you bring to home to raise your kids or to work on your relationship with your significant other, your spouse, your neighbors. Good vibes bring good vibes, period.
Exactly. And so to think about that as a leader, this really, really, I don't know how to describe it other than just awesome responsibility that you have. And I call it a responsibility because you have this chance to make such an impact in somebody else's life that I remember when I was in my previous role, when I had direct reports in a sales leadership position, it was this awesome, unbelievable feeling to know that you have the ability to positively impact people's, not just their lives, not just their careers, but their lives. It was really interesting. And so I got that itch started in college,
which is great. I mean, your brain doesn't develop till you're 26, 27 years old. And like I said earlier, you were wise beyond your years. Now, Adam is a very special person to have as a teacher. I went to Drake University and had a couple that really impacted me as well. And when I always say, I practice kind of, as you said it already earlier, but a servant's type approach to leadership. My family always led with the mantra, my folks, it's not what you have, it's what you give. And that can be philanthropically or to your community or to those around you or whatever. It's a great day for a great day. There's 1,000 analogies here that you can come up with, and you can be a victor or you can be a victim going through life. And that victor attitude can also be from a position of humility, right? And impacting others. And it's okay. You're going to get through it. You're going to fight through it. I just had a great guest on, Dr. Rob Leone. He's a professor of psychological, kind of studies. Has a company called Black River Performance Management, and he was on the show and talks about kind of the psychology of leadership as well. I've always said I'm a psychologist by association, right? I've got 30 years of leading people. I've had hundreds of people on my teams over the years, and I've always tried to. The reason I went to, and Rob doesn't call it coaching because he doesn't think you aren't on the field. He wants to be more in the fight, but I decided on the coaching and the leadership job 30 years ago. And it was either the first or second episode ever of the Dr. Leadership podcast was Why Be a Leader? And it's not about being in control. It's not about being the boss. It's not about making the decisions. It's about inspiring. It's about getting your thrills and having your junkie mojo hit you for high-fiving other people's successes and driving people past what their own personal limits are between their own ears, and seeing people develop and get it, and all those different things that we're kind of talking about here are why I went into leadership too. And I think that you're dead on that. I think certain people are born with some innate skills that help them be a better leader. I mean,
Absolutely.
there's all sorts of studies. If you're over 6 foot and you got a deep voice, I've got both those. Now I've got a face for radio too. I don't have, I'm not Cooper DeJean that's got the baby boy looks too, but not a bad guy, but I'm not making any records, right? So I've got a couple of innate skills, and then that learning process that you're talking about. You have good examples. You see people that lead through actions, not respect is earned, not demanded. All these different things that you're kind of touching on around the edges there. I'm filling in the middle for you. Hopefully it's right. Is very, very important in this journey of being a leader, and why it resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, and something that you'd mentioned a little bit, and I believe you'd mentioned something around humility. And
Yep.
It's interesting because when people think of a leader, I think of people that have all the answers, they know everything. That's the leader. I'll go to the leader. But I think part of being a great leader as well is being able to have that humility, like you mentioned. And it's going back. Adam I don't know if he coined this term, but I know he talks about it frequently, this term confident humility. And I think it's important to be a leader. So confident humility, he really defines it as, I'm confident in myself, my skills, what I can do, my work ethic, my ability to learn.
Yep.
But I'm humble enough to know that I don't know it right now, or I might not have it down right now, but at least I'm able to acknowledge what I don't know. I'm able to be vulnerable. I'm able to let you know those things. And I think that helps resonate with your team, especially if you're coming to a team as either a brand new leader.
A new leader, buddy to boss, somebody that was on the team before.
Exactly.
You have
to be able to be vulnerable in that sense, because I think you have to humanize it. And if you don't humanize yourself, it's really difficult to relate, because let's be real, it's ultimately all about relationships. How can you build a great relationship with your team? Psychological safety, where they feel that they can make mistakes and not fear this.
Open it up. Yeah. Be vulnerable themselves, right? Fail forward.
No, exactly. So I think all these things come into play, and it really also is why leadership is a really challenging thing. It's definitely a practice, and that's why we're talking about it. And I have miles and miles and miles to go on my leadership journey.
Well, and you never get to the final destination, right? I mean, everything is moving so fast and changing so fast. Like right now, I've got 5 generations that I lead in some manner across my organization, right? From boomers to Zs to millennials to on and on and on, right? And every one of those, it takes different skill sets. You have to be able to ebb and flow with it, and that humility is important. You mentioned people think the listeners have heard this story before, but I don't know if you haven't heard it from me. But I remember when I was young, you'd go into a meeting room and you'd look around, you'd look for the gray-haired man or woman, and that's who you're going to pay attention to, because they have all the answers, right? They're the experienced one. And now I walk into a room and I look around and go, oh, hell, it's me. I better have my game today, right? But the way you get experience or wisdom is through making mistakes. The way you avoid mistakes is through experience or wisdom, and the way you gain experience and wisdom is by making mistakes. It's a circle, and you move from different points on that circle of wisdom and experience and mistakes in every new endeavor, every new team, every new product, every new launch, every new relationship that you go through. You reset to plumb. You have to start that journey over in some way. And any leader that thinks that they have it all figured out is not a very good leader, because that's someone that has crossed the line of self-confidence and cockiness. You need to be confident, but you don't want to be cocky. You need to be self-assured, but you don't want to be past listening and learning and experiencing life, right? So I buy 100% what you're saying. So Adam was a big impact on you. Who else was a big impact to you from kind of the history of leadership?
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at, obviously I mentioned my parents were the first one, and then countless other people within my family as well. And then you look at someone like Adam Grant in college. You look at coaches in college are obviously able to influence you as well. But then really some of the other places I've really started to derive kind of leadership is who else can I go and listen and learn from? And two people that I've never met, unfortunately, but I've learned so much from them. And again, it's interesting how the impact you can have by doing things, even like you're doing here, Brent, just being able to talk about leadership and you never know who's listening. Two people that I've really enjoyed learning a lot from. One would be Jocko Willink.
Good.
And yeah, exactly. Good. So I definitely do not have as cool of a podcast voice as Jocko. Maybe he has just a cool mic. Maybe I'll just try to make myself feel better and say that it's maybe the mic that makes him sound so.
I think
so cool.
It might be that he led SEAL Team 1, 2, and 3. It might be something to do about that too. I think you just look at him and go, he could kill me 9 ways from Sunday, right?
Yeah, but he is. So Jocko Willink's been somebody that I've learned a lot from, and I've read a lot of his books and listened to his podcast and get a lot of his content. One thing, I guess, two of the biggest things from him is he talks about discipline equals freedom. He talks about if you can be disciplined, if you can do the little things, it'll give you that leverage, that leeway to do things how you want to do them, when you want to do them, if you build that rapport up. But the biggest thing I took away from Jocko is the sense of ownership, and extreme ownership. You wrote a book about it. Accountability. And I think it's something, when I first read it, and he actually came out with a book later called The Dichotomy of Leadership to kind of clarify, like, hey, there's a tipping point to this. You can't just go around constantly just blaming yourself for
falling on the sword for things that's not in your wheelhouse. That's right.
It'll be professionally crippling to do that.
That's right.
It'll be hard to get through it. But the general sense of what he talks about with ownership is so spot on. And really, it's when you're a leader and you have a team, if something happens, you are responsible for everything in your world. So no matter what happens, if you're the leader of that team, in some way, shape, or form, you have to look at yourself and say, all right, what could I have done differently to change this outcome? It's that open mindset, that growth mindset Carol Dweck talks about.
Yep.
And for me, what it boiled down to is if you're sitting there and something negative happens and you're just constantly blaming other people or someone else for it, what you're essentially signaling is this event that was either negative or not what I intended to have happen. And the way that will improve in the future is that person is going to do something different. So what you're signaling is in order for it or the situation to get better, that person needs to make a change.
That's right.
So you're putting your future in the hands of someone else. And there are some great people that we can rely on. But Jocko kind of talks about, why not say, all right, what could
myself,
I do
right? What could I do differently next time? Doesn't mean everything you did was wrong, but everything is not linear, but everything has an association for what you did just before that to the outcome. It's a series of steps. Where could I have adjusted? Why in the road could I have gone to the left instead of the right that made the outcome more desirable to the end state I had pictured in my mind when I started to take on the task?
Exactly. And what that's doing now is that I can make a change, and now I'm having more control of the outcome, because even if that person or that group, whatever it might be, makes a similar move in the future, I'm going to be better prepared if I can adjust my approach to be X, Y, or Z. And so I really took that, and it's one of the things that helped kind of drive. I mean, like you said, you can't always 100% be falling on the sword, and you have to be careful not to just always take the blame, because then you're essentially relieving those around you.
Responsibility of others. That's correct.
So there's a dichotomy to it, but that is really one of the biggest things in leadership that stuck with me. And the second person that I've really looked up to a lot as a leader is definitely John Wooden.
I mean, 10 national championships in a row. Why would you look up to somebody like that?
Exactly. I stumbled over him one day, but it's actually a fun story how I got across that. So it was my freshman year in college. We just finished up the season. We were doing winter workouts, and we've talked a lot about sports, but anybody that's played college sports, you go from your high school, and barring you didn't go to one of these superpower high schools, I went to West Windsor, Plainsboro High School South in Princeton Junction, New Jersey, and you're big fish in a small pond kind of athletically.
Yeah.
And then you go to college, and it's a whirlwind. You're stepping on the field now, and the unique thing about the Ivy League is there are some people that are there, and that's the perfect level of football for them. There's some people, maybe it's a reach for them, but there's also players that will play on Sundays. One of my best friends from
playing
college,
down, right? Just they chose it, or haven't developed to the NFL skill set yet, but they're getting there, right?
Exactly. We play Harvard all 4 years. Kyle Juszczyk is their fullback. He's the multi-time Pro Bowl starting fullback for the 49ers. So you're playing against really competitive people. You come in as 18 years old. There's 21, 22-year-old men that you're competing with. And after my freshman year, I was sitting in the locker room, was after a workout. It was really tough. I was like, man, that was had a season, but you're thinking about what's the depth chart going to look like, and they're bringing recruits in. It's a lot to handle. And I saw this little book. It was a little blue book titled Wooden. It was in the locker of a transfer from someone transferred in from Stanford. And I said, let me just read this book. So I reached in his locker and I started just reading the book a little bit. And I look up, I was probably read it for over an hour, went right to the bookstore and bought it. And it was really John Wooden, his just kind of little approach to really life in general, but leadership is a huge part of that. And like you said, 10 national championships. And so for me, the biggest takeaway I had from Coach Wooden is, how do you define success? Because up until that point, I always defined success as, was I the starter? Did I have the record? Did I get an A? Was I selected for this team or that team? Did I get the job? He defined success as a peace of mind, which is a direct result in knowing that you've made the maximum effort to become the best of which you're capable of becoming.
Mm-hmm.
So you read his book and he talks about, before games, I could take a nap because I was so clear on how we prepared and what we were doing. And he started to define success as, did we make the effort? Did we control everything that we could? Were we prepared as possible? He talks about, you never might know when your moment's going to come, but if it does, you're not prepared. It might never come again.
Well, winning is in the preparation, not in the outcome of the game, right? I mean, there's been a lot of coaching. The thing about Wooden that always impressed me was the 10 national championships, of course. But there's an image, and I can't remember what it was. I don't know if they were, but Kareem Abdul-Jabbar played for Wooden. And 50 years after Kareem played for him, they're walking off the basketball court, and Kareem's holding on to his hand, and Wooden's walking with a cane. Yeah. And that man had such an impact on one of the greatest players ever in the basketball NBA. The sky hook still cannot be defended. I don't know why players don't play it anymore. It's because there's no points in the paint any longer. There's studies on that now. 90% comes from the arc, and 10% in the paint. And when Kareem played and Magic and so on, that the paint was 80% of the points, right? The 10-footer was about far as you went. But to see the impact he had on Kareem, to be by his side 50 years, 60 years later, Wooden was 90 at that point or something, and it was just like, wow, what an impact, I have a good friend that worked with me for a long time, guy by the name of DJ Blythe, that I had on. DJ played a little bit of time with the 49ers and had a cup of coffee with the Dolphins, and then ended up playing for Ditka in the Arena League, and has a big ring from a world championship in the Arena League. And he talked about his high school coach. He played at Tennessee Tech and was the number one defensive end on tackles for loss and things. His junior year, came back, should have gone that year, super fast guy, and came back and then broke his ankle like the second game of the season, then only got to play like the last two games, and it really caught. And then he went through combine and got picked up and practice squad and things. But he talked about that coach that had inspired him, and he just got put into the Hall of Fame down in Cranston, Georgia, where he grew up, and his coach was there with him, very emotional speech and things. And it made me think of the Wooden Kareem deal when he sent me the video of the weekend. And if you open your mind to looking at other people and trying to pull something from them and learn from them, respect your elders, right? The greatest generation. I had World War II parents. I was surrounded by Battle of the Bulge neighbors. I was surrounded by P-51 Mustang pilots. That's who was having at my pool parties when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, right? I mean, I had these giants of men and their spouses that lost brothers and children in Vietnam. And you just, going through life, to all the listeners out there, just look for opportunities to suck something off, just to absorb this mindset from these people, because your mindset is the difference between you making it and not making it. That's it. When you boil it down, that's it. And man, what a great story. I'm a big Jocko fan, big Wooden fan. Got all sorts of people that have inspired me as well. But so Jocko, I'm doing some training. We were talking briefly. I've been putting together some curriculum for some sales leadership training. I'm going kind of on a world tour here, going to Asia for a little bit, and then Australia, New Zealand, then Latin America, and then Europe. And the first section of the training is we got to have our mindset right. And I'm playing Jocko's good video and
Good.
talking about personal mindset. You got to understand that you don't know all the answers. That's why you're here. I don't know all the answers either. I'm not here because I'm, the second coming of sales, but I've got a lot of experiences. So if your mindset is right and you're going to look, like you said, find the accountability and the responsibility that I came here, I'm going to take nuggets away from it, you're going to go away better than you came. Now, if you come and you sit and you go, who's this guy from the United States? Maybe culturally my shtick doesn't work. I don't know. We'll find out. But if you come with the right mindset, things are going to go better for you in the long run. I guess that's the net.
I love the mindset approach, and it's interesting. I got into reading about Stoicism for a little bit.
The Stoics are great. Yep.
Yeah, I read Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and Ryan Holiday is an author that has written a ton of great books. And I think what he's done is he's done such a great job of taking Stoicism, making it really accessible and kind of translating it into everyday scenario. And one of my biggest takeaways from Stoicism is really when it breaks down to it's like you can't control what happens to you, but you control how you respond to it.
That's right.
External events are just events. It's the meaning that you give to it and the thought space that you give to it, the headspace, I should say, that you give to it, and your reaction to it. You always have the choice to control your reaction.
That's right. Emotional intelligence. EQ is better and more important than IQ. Have you ever read any Nietzsche?
I'm not.
So he wrote a book, I think it was like 1869. He was a German philosopher and a very interesting guy, very interesting kind of viewpoints on God, not anti-religion, but just you're in control of your own, right? There's not a greater thing that's controlling you. You're in control of your. Look him up. It's I did an episode. If you want to get a start on it, look through my library, and there's one on Nietzsche. And he ended up, dying young, but wrote some great books. His wife actually published one of the books after he died. And like I said, he was in Germany in the I think his book came out in like 1860. He wrote several, but the one I talk about on the episode, I think it was like 1869. My stack of notes here on my desk, it's here somewhere. But that'd be somebody interested. I'd love to hear your feedback on him, because it doesn't matter if it's 1860. Stoicism's a lot older than that. So you get into a lot of this stuff has been the same forever, but we're all new to it, because we weren't around forever ago. So again, it goes back to the learning and having an open mind.
And something else that I think about what you just said, like how old a lot of this stuff is. And you're reading something by Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, exactly.
It could have been someone at your office telling you about a situation that just happened on a Zoom meeting. And
it's the same. Iliad and the Odyssey. You got oh gosh, what's his name that does the Jason Bourne? What's the actor?
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon's doing Homer's The Odyssey. He's playing, he is. He's playing Odysseus. So I saw that ad today, and I'm like, man, I remember I read the Iliad and the Odyssey back in school when you had to go to the library and get books. A little different these days, but I thought about leadership today. I'm like, oh man, the story's there, because he left for years, right? There's all sorts of stories about the sirens, and that's where our emergency vehicle stuff come from, and the Cyclops stories, and it's just life lessons around all that, how to determine friends and who to put in your tribe, and who took care of your family while you're gone, and who turned on you while you were gone, and just it's human nature.
And that's where you mentioned the sirens. That's where that term, like the Ulysses contract, comes from, where hey, do something now that's going to have to lock in a course of action later.
That's right.
He tied himself to the mast of the ship. So
that's right. Wouldn't fall over. That's right.
Yeah, in business, same thing comes in as a leader. How can you, do something now that will ensure a future action when you might not be as inclined to make it? So,
tell you what, we can get deep, can't we? It's good stuff. Everybody, pay attention. So, to be courteous of your time, I know we're coming up here. We had some great conversations here. Is there anything you just wanted to share to the listeners before we kind of close up today? Something to comment, or something you wanted to make sure you wanted to touch on, or just kind of leadership in general? You have anything you want to share before we go?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my last stint as a people leader, and I actually got this from one of the leaders at my organization, is there's something that I learned around intent versus impact as a leader. And it's so easy to assume that what you say is always being taken the way that you meant to say it. And I think that I've learned that it's not just even what you say, it's how you say it. But you can have the best intentions of the world. For instance, you might say, I need everyone to fill out this forecasting. form, or we need a forecast for the monthly report.
Right.
Intention is we want to plan accordingly, make sure inventory is all set, make sure that we're dialed in on what we need to be doing for the month. And the team might say, this is just busy work. This is
you're micromanaging me. Yeah.
Exactly, micromanaging. But that's all that is the misalignment of intent and impact. And what I've at least experienced both personally and professionally is the majority of disagreements, the majority of situations that you find yourself in where you're not seeing eye to eye with somebody, it's really just a misalignment between intent versus impact. So I think as leaders, if I can urge everyone, make sure that you're really not only just clarifying what you're saying by clearly explaining the why you're doing this, because if people can buy into the why, they'll better understand the intent and they'll have the intended impact. But really make sure you're focusing on how you're saying things. I still try to do this. I run through the day before all my meetings, just a brief recap of almost we talk about a sports, like a walkthrough of the meeting.
Yeah,
how am I
dry run? Yep.
Do it. Because I want it to make sure that it comes off the right way. Because as a leader, your words hit differently.
Oh, absolutely.
And what you say, how you say it, when you say it, if it's a Friday afternoon, you could ruin somebody's weekend. So really make sure you're taking that into account. And just the last thing I'd say is, we've talked about it a little bit. Leadership is such a great opportunity. And I hope you can hear that, the passion in my voice. You have the ability to truly, truly positively change people's careers and lives. And I just hope that if you're in a leadership position, if you find yourself in a leadership position or you're striving for a leadership position, I just hope that we all appreciate that unique opportunity and don't waste it, because it's really unique. And how special would it be to have, we talked about John Wooden, and we talked about these coaches or teachers that we've had that have made this profound impact. How cool would it be to have somebody say that you were able to make that positive impact on their lives?
It's the legacy, man. It's the legacy impact, right? You're trying to leave something behind that isn't tangible, but it's in somebody's heart. And your communication method really hits home too, because it's context, right? Intent is what you focused in on, but it's context to where it loses, and how you communicate text messages and things like that. Don't coach, don't lead through social media. Don't lead through email. Lead through personal relationships, conversations. You have to communicate in those manners. I get that. But when you're praising in public, or I hate saying punishing in private, or coaching in private, make sure that it's done in a person-to-person methodology, anyway, in mechanism, any way you can, anytime you can, because that context, that intent, boy, you are all over it there, because you can turn something that you were trying to inspire with and turn it into a very derogatory, recepted message. And man, now you've got a problem that was bigger than anything you were trying to coach through before.
Yeah,
you've got barriers up. You've got barriers up. Hey, great to have you on, everybody. So Dave Twamley, again, area VP at Olympus Corporation, former sports marketing guy, huge athlete with 3 conference championships in the Ivy League, went to the Wharton School of Business, just a junkie around leadership. I want to thank you so much. If everybody will just take those last few comments that Dave gave us, it will take you from ordinary to awesome. Then keep that shit up. Talk next week.